Imagine kneeling beside your dying son, his breath's getting shallower, his face pale and drawn, and he's rejecting your attempts at religious comfort, refusing to repent. This was the scene Patrick Brontë faced with his son Branwell, a stark reminder of the darkness that lingered even within a family renowned for its brilliance. Welcome back to the Mad Genius Thesis, where we explore the lives of creative icons trying to untangle that knotty question: is there a link between genius and mental illness? Today, we're diving deep into the world of the Brontes, the family behind literary masterpieces like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. You provide some fascinating sources on the Brontes, and it seems you're particularly interested in peeling back the layers of myth and romanticism that often surround them. Let's see what we can uncover together.
It's a worthy pursuit. Often we get caught up in the dramatic narratives surrounding these literary figures, but understanding their work requires us to understand their lives not as romanticized figures, but as real people grappling with the complexities of their time.
Exactly. One of your sources, Juliet Barker's biography of the Brontë family, really emphasizes that point. She argues that we should appreciate their work without being shocked by their direct language or characters.
Barker's approach is refreshing. It encourages us to engage with the Brontes' work on its own terms, within its historical context, without imposing modern sensibilities or seeking to confirm preconceived notions about their lives.
It's like she's saying, let's judge the work, not the perceived madness of the creators.
Precisely. Their achievements are perhaps even more remarkable when we consider the challenges they faced, both personal and societal.
So to really understand the Brontes, where should we begin?
Well, the foundation of any family is, of course, the patriarch, Patrick Brontë. Their father is a compelling figure in his own right. He was a man of ambition, rising from humble beginnings to become a clergyman, a scholar, and a writer.
His journey wasn't easy, was it? He faced financial struggles and had to fight for every opportunity to educate himself.
Absolutely. His determination to succeed is striking. He served in various parishes, Wellington Hartshead, dedicating himself to his calling. He wasn't simply a preacher. He was actively involved in his communities, visiting the sick, championing education for the poor.
His strong evangelical beliefs seem to have been a driving force in his life, wouldn't you say?
Undoubtedly. His faith shaped his worldview and, in turn, had a significant influence on his children's upbringing and their own perspectives on life.
And then there's the tragedy that struck the family early on. His wife, Maria Branwell, died tragically young, leaving him to raise 6 children alone.
It's a loss that must have had a profound impact on Patrick and the entire family. It's hard to imagine the emotional toll of losing a spouse and a mother so early in life.
It's even more poignant when you consider that shortly after Maria's death, Patrick proposed to Elizabeth Firth, but she rejected him. Do you think that added another layer of complexity to his grief and the family's dynamic?
It's certainly possible. The rejection, coupled with the immense responsibility of raising 6 children alone, could have contributed to a sense of isolation or even a struggle to connect emotionally.
It paints a picture of a man grappling with loss and loneliness while trying to maintain a sense of stability for his children.
Exactly. And this brings us to the setting that became so intertwined with the Brontes' lives and work, Haworth Parsonage.
The parsonage, a rather imposing stone building perched on the edge of the wild Yorkshire moors, has become almost as iconic as the Brontë sisters themselves. It's easy to imagine how that isolated, windswept environment might have shaped their imaginations.
Haworth itself was a small village far removed from the bustling cities and social circles of the time. Life there was harsh, particularly during times of economic hardship and frequent disease outbreaks.
There's a common perception of Patrick Brontë as a reclusive figure, shutting himself away in his study and neglecting his children. But some accounts describe him as a kind and considerate father. How do we reconcile these contrasting views?
It's important to avoid painting historical figures in simplistic terms. It's unlikely that Patrick was entirely neglectful or entirely engaged. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, with his personality and parenting style influenced by the pressures and expectations of his time.
It's a good reminder that history is rarely black and white.
Exactly. And within the walls of that parsonage, surrounded by the wild beauty and harsh realities of Haworth, the 6 Brontë children, Maria, Elizabeth, Charlotte Branwell, Emily, and Anne, began to explore their own creative impulses.
We often think of the Brontë sisters as a unit, but it's important to remember that their brother Branwell played a significant role in their early creative development as well.
Absolutely. They were a close-knit group sharing a love of literature, storytelling, and imaginative play. Their early writings, including the elaborate Angria and Gondal sagas, were collaborative efforts, each sibling contributing to the creation of these intricate fictional worlds.
It's fascinating to think of them as children huddled together in that parsonage weaving tales of adventure, romance, and intrigue.
It speaks to the power of imagination, particularly in a setting where entertainment and escape were limited. They created their own worlds, their own characters, their own dramas.
And it's within this context that we start to see the seeds of their future literary genius taking root. But their childhood wasn't without its hardships.
Sadly, no. The Brontë sisters in particular experienced a devastating loss when they were sent to the clergy daughters' school at Cowan Bridge. The conditions there were deplorable, and tragically, two of the sisters, Maria and Elizabeth, died from illnesses contracted at the school.
It's heartbreaking to think of those young girls, full of potential, succumbing to such preventable tragedies.
It's a stark reminder of the harsh realities of life in the 19th century, particularly for those from impoverished backgrounds. And for the surviving Brontë sisters, this experience undoubtedly shaped their perspectives on social injustice, the fragility of life, and the importance of female resilience.
These early experiences, both the joys of shared creativity and the pain of loss, seem to have laid the foundation for the themes that would later emerge in their writing.
It's a reminder that creative expression is often deeply intertwined with personal experience. The Brontës drew inspiration from their surroundings, their relationships, and their own internal landscapes.
So we see these early glimpses of genius emerging, but also the shadows of hardship and loss. It makes you wonder how these experiences, both positive and negative, might have shaped their creative journeys and their understanding of the human condition.
It's a fascinating question to consider, and one we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the Brontës' lives and work.
Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's unpack Charlotte Bronte's experience as a governess. This period seems to have been a pivotal one for her development as a writer.
It was a challenging time, to be sure. Financial constraints forced Charlotte to seek employment as a governess, a position that often involved long hours, isolation, and limited social interaction. Her experiences at Roe Head School provided ample material for her later novels, particularly Ditero.
She struggled to balance her creative ambitions with the demands of her work, didn't she? It must have been frustrating to feel her talent stifled by the circumstances of her life.
Absolutely. And this struggle is something that many creative individuals can relate to even today. The need to balance artistic pursuits with the practicalities of survival is a theme that resonates across time and generations.
It's interesting to think of Jane Eyre, with its themes of social class, female autonomy, and passionate romance, as being partly inspired by Charlotte's own experiences as a governess. It's like she was channeling those frustrations, those desires for something more into her writing.
It speaks to the power of art to transform personal experience into something universal, something that can connect with others on a deeper level.
And speaking of personal experience, we can't ignore the shadow that loomed over the Brontë family, Branwell's downfall. He started with such promise, showing talent as an artist, and even securing a job on the railway. What led to his descent into alcoholism and addiction?
It's a complex issue, and it's impossible to pinpoint a single cause. Some speculate that his tumultuous relationship with Mrs. Robinson, his employer's wife, played a significant role. The heartbreak, the social stigma, and the potential loss of his reputation could have contributed to his downward spiral.
His addiction seems to have had a devastating impact on the family, particularly his sisters.
Absolutely. They witnessed his decline firsthand, and it's hard to imagine the emotional toll it took on them. They were forced to confront the destructive power of addiction, the loss of potential, and the pain it inflicted on those around them.
Do you think Branwell's struggles might have influenced the themes we see in the sisters' writing, particularly their exploration of male characters who are flawed, tormented, or prone to self-destruction?
It's certainly a possibility. The sisters wouldn't have been immune to the impact of Branwell's addiction. They may have consciously or unconsciously channeled those experiences into their work, exploring the complexities of male characters who struggle with inner demons or succumb to societal pressures.
It's like they were grappling with those issues, those dark undercurrents of their own family life through their writing.
Art can be a powerful tool for processing difficult emotions and experiences. It allows us to confront challenging aspects of ourselves and the world around us, seeking meaning and understanding through creative expression.
And in the case of the Brontë sisters, their experiences with Branwell's downfall might have provided a unique lens through which they explored the darker aspects of human nature, the complexities of addiction, and the consequences of societal expectations.
It's a reminder that even within a family as creative and accomplished as the Brontës, darkness and tragedy could not be escaped. They were forced to confront the complexities of human behavior, both the brilliance and the fragility, and those experiences undoubtedly shaped their perspectives as writers.
It's almost impossible to talk about the Brontes without picturing that iconic setting, the Haworth parsonage perched on the edge of the wild Yorkshire moors. Do you think the environment itself played a role in shaping their creative voices?
Without a doubt, the parsonage, their isolated home, became a crucible for their creativity. Imagine the Brontë children spending countless hours exploring the vast, windswept moors, breathing in the crisp air, their imaginations ignited by the rugged beauty and haunting solitude of the landscape.
It's a stark contrast to the bustling cities and structured social lives that many people associate with the 19th century.
Exactly. Their isolation fostered a deep connection to nature, and you see that reflected in their writing. The moors become more than just a backdrop. They're almost characters themselves, imbued with a sense of mystery and a power that shapes the lives of the people who inhabit them.
Think about Wuthering Heights, Emily's masterpiece. The wild, untamed nature of the moors is so central to the story, to the passions and the conflicts that unfold.
Precisely. It's as if the landscape itself mirrors the raw emotions, the tempestuous relationships, and the untamed desires of the characters.
And the parsonage itself, those cramped quarters, the constant presence of death and illness that must have had an impact as well.
Absolutely. Their early experiences with loss, the death of their mother, and two eldest sisters at a young age undoubtedly cast a shadow over their lives. It's hard to imagine that not shaping their perspectives, their understanding of mortality, and their exploration of darker themes in their writing.
It's interesting that you mentioned darker themes, because the Brontes' writing was often considered quite shocking for its time, wasn't it? They didn't shy away from exploring the complexities of human nature, the passions, the betrayals, the darker impulses that lurk beneath the surface.
Their work challenged societal norms and expectations, particularly around gender roles and female agency. Think about Jane Eyre. She's a strong-willed, independent woman who demands to be treated as an equal, who refuses to conform to the limited roles available to women in her time.
It's a powerful message, and it resonated with readers, even those who might have been scandalized by her boldness.
It speaks to the enduring power of authenticity. Jane Eyre is a flawed character, but her struggles, her desires, her fight for autonomy felt real and relatable to readers, even those living in a society that tried to constrain women within narrow definitions.
And then there's Wuthering Heights, with its raw depiction of love revenge and those almost primal passions that seem to erupt from the characters. It's a far cry from the sentimental romances that were popular at the time.
Emily wasn't interested in romanticizing love. She explored its darker side, the possessiveness, the jealousy, the destructive forces that can be unleashed when love turns to obsession.
It's fascinating how each sister, despite their shared upbringing and influences, developed such distinct voices and styles.
It speaks to their individual talents and perspectives. Charlie, with her sharp social commentary and her exploration of female agency; Emily, with her haunting, almost gothic sensibility and her examination of the darker aspects of human nature; and Anne, who often focused on themes of social justice and moral responsibility.
It's easy to get caught up in the darkness and the drama of their stories, but their lives weren't entirely devoid of joy and connection, were they?
Absolutely not. The Brontes, despite their hardships, were a close-knit family. Their shared creative pursuits provided a sense of purpose and a source of connection. They read together, wrote together, critiqued each other's work, and found solace in their shared passion for literature.
And you see glimpses of that warmth, that humor, even in their darkest works. There's a tenderness, a humanity that shines through, even in the midst of tragedy.
It's a reminder that even the most brilliant minds, even those who grapple with the depths of human suffering, are capable of experiencing joy, laughter, and love. They're not one-dimensional figures defined solely by their struggles or their creative output.
It's that complexity, that blend of light and shadow that makes them so fascinating to study, isn't it?
Exactly. Their lives were a tapestry of experiences, some joyful, some heartbreaking, all shaping their perspectives and their creative voices.
Now, we've talked about Branwell's downfall and the potential impact it had on the sisters' writing. But I'm curious to explore this further. Did they ever directly address his struggles in their work, or was it more of an underlying influence that shaped their themes and characters?
It's a difficult question to answer definitively. While they didn't explicitly write about Branwell's addiction in their published novels, it's possible that they explored those themes in their earlier writings, particularly the Angria and Gondal sagas, which were more personal and less constrained by the expectations of the publishing world.
It would make sense, wouldn't it, to use their writing as a way to process those difficult emotions, to try to make sense of the tragedy unfolding within their own family.
Absolutely. Art can be a powerful tool for catharsis, for confronting difficult truths and finding meaning in the midst of pain. It's possible that the sisters used their writing to explore the complexities of addiction, the impact on families, and the societal stigma surrounding those struggling with substance abuse.
We often think of the Brontes' work as being ahead of its time in terms of its exploration of female agency and social justice. But perhaps they were also ahead of their time in their willingness to confront issues like addiction and mental illness, albeit in a more veiled or metaphorical way.
It's a fascinating possibility. They were certainly attuned to the complexities of human nature, the struggles, the triumphs, and the darker impulses that we all grapple with.
And their willingness to explore those darker aspects, even indirectly, is perhaps part of what makes their work so enduring. It speaks to a truthfulness, a recognition of the human condition in all its messy glory.
It's a reminder that even in the midst of darkness, even when confronting difficult truths, there's a beauty and a power in acknowledging the complexities of life, in seeking understanding, and in finding meaning through creative expression.
Now, we've discussed the influence of the environment, their personal experiences, and even Branwell's downfall on the Brontes' writing. But I want to shift gears a bit and talk about their individual journeys as authors. Charlotte, in particular, went through an incredible evolution as a writer, didn't she?
She did. Her early work, influenced by the fantastical worlds of Angria and Gondal, was elaborate and imaginative, but it lacked the discipline and the mature style that we see in her later novels.
She faced a lot of rejection early on, didn't she? Publishers weren't exactly clamoring to publish the work of an unknown woman, especially one who dared to challenge societal norms.
It's true. It took perseverance, resilience, and a willingness to refine her craft before she achieved success with Jane Eyre, which she initially published under the pseudonym Currer Bell.
It's fascinating to think of her working tirelessly to hone her skills, facing rejection after rejection, and ultimately triumphing with a novel that became a sensation.
It's a testament to her talent, her determination, and her unwavering belief in her own voice.
And Emily and Anne, they faced similar challenges, didn't they? They also chose to publish under male pseudonyms, Ellis and Acton Bell, perhaps hoping to avoid the biases and limitations placed on female authors at the time.
It was a common practice for women writers in the 19th century, a way to navigate a literary landscape that was often hostile or dismissive of female voices.
It's ironic, isn't it, that these women who wrote such powerful stories about female agency and resilience had to adopt male identities to get their work published.
It speaks to the systemic barriers that women faced in the literary world and the lengths they had to go to have their voices heard.
But despite these challenges, all three sisters managed to leave their mark on literature, each contributing unique perspectives and creating works that continue to resonate with readers centuries later.
Their success is a testament to their talent, their perseverance, and their unwavering commitment to their craft. They defied the expectations of their time and paved the way for future generations of women writers.
It's an incredible legacy. But as we delve deeper into their individual journeys as authors, I can't help but return to that central question that fuels our podcast. Is there a link between genius and madness?
It's a question that continues to fascinate and perplex us, and the Brontes' lives and work offer a compelling case study. There's certainly evidence suggesting possible mental health issues within the family. Branwell's addiction is a clear example, and Charlotte reportedly struggled with anxiety and depression.
And the intensity of their writing, the darkness, the exploration of those raw primal emotions, it's easy to see how some might draw a connection between their creative output and a potential predisposition to mental illness.
It's tempting to draw a direct correlation to say that their pain fueled their genius. But as we've discussed before, correlation doesn't equal causation. Their hardships and potential mental health challenges may have influenced their work, but to reduce their genius to simply a byproduct of their struggles would be a disservice to their talent, their hard work, and their unique perspectives.
It's a good reminder that the human experience is complex and nuanced. We can't neatly categorize individuals as either mad or genius.
Precisely. The Brontes, like all of us, were a blend of strengths and vulnerabilities, joys and sorrows, triumphs and setbacks. Their creativity emerged from that complexity, from their ability to channel their experiences, both light and dark, into art that continues to move and inspire us.
So where does this leave us? Are we any closer to answering that elusive question about the link between genius and madness?
Perhaps not with a definitive answer, but with a deeper understanding of the Brontes as complex individuals who navigated a challenging world and left behind an enduring literary legacy.
They were more than just mad geniuses. They were artists, storytellers, observers of human nature, and their work continues to challenge and inspire us to this day. But before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the Brontes, we need to explore their lasting impact and legacy. What themes and ideas from their work continue to resonate with readers today? We've spent quite a bit of time unpacking the lives of the Brontes, their struggles, their creative triumphs, and that persistent question of whether their genius was somehow intertwined with their personal hardships. But what about their enduring impact? Why do their novels continue to resonate with readers centuries later?
It's a testament to their ability to tap into universal themes that transcend time and place. Love loss, social injustice, the search for identity, the struggle against societal constraints. These are experiences that resonate with readers across generations and cultures.
Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights in particular have become literary touchstones, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've been adapted countless times for film, television, even the stage. What do you think explains their enduring appeal?
Both novels in their own way challenge the status quo. Jane Eyre, for all its Gothic romance elements, is ultimately a story about a woman demanding autonomy in a world that seeks to define her. She's not content to be a passive heroine. She yearns for love, yes, but also for independence, for intellectual fulfillment, for a life that transcends the limitations placed upon women in her time.
And she's not afraid to speak her mind, is she? Even when it means defying social conventions or risking rejection.
Exactly, and that's what makes her such a compelling character. She's flawed, she makes mistakes, but she's ultimately driven by a desire to be true to herself, even when it means going against the grain.
And Wuthering Heights, it's a very different kind of story, isn't it? It's darker, more passionate, with a wild, almost primal energy that seems to emanate from the Yorkshire moors themselves.
Emily's vision was singular. She wasn't interested in writing a conventional love story. Wuthering Heights is a whirlwind of obsession, revenge, and unfulfilled desires played out against a backdrop of stark beauty and haunting isolation.
And Heathcliff, what a character. He's brooding, enigmatic, almost monstrous at times.
Yeah.
And yet there's a vulnerability, a yearning for love and belonging that makes him strangely sympathetic, even in his darkest moments.
Emily tapped into something primal with Heathcliff. He embodies those raw, untamed emotions that we all possess but often try to suppress. He's a force of nature, and his presence disrupts the carefully constructed social order of the world around him.
It's no wonder that Wuthering Heights has continued to fascinate and provoke readers for centuries. It's a novel that defies easy categorization, that challenges our notions of morality, and that lingers in the imagination long after we've finished reading it.
It's a testament to the power of originality. Emily wasn't afraid to explore the darker aspects of human nature, to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in literature at the time. And in doing so, she created a work that continues to challenge and provoke us today.
Now, beyond the individual novels, there are broader themes that run through the Brontes' work, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. One that stands out is their exploration of social class and injustice. Their own experiences with poverty, with the limitations placed upon women, with the harsh realities of life in 19th century England, all found their way into their writing.
Jane Eyre is a prime example, isn't it? Her struggles as an orphan, her experiences as a governess, her awareness of the vast social gulf that separates her from Rochester, these all contribute to her sense of self and her determination to forge her own path.
Exactly. And even in Wuthering Heights, where the focus is more on the psychological complexities of the characters, there is an underlying critique of social hierarchy and the ways in which it can warp relationships and destinies.
The Brontes' writing also seems to be preoccupied with the tension between passion and duty, between individual desires and societal expectations.
It's a theme that resonates throughout their work. Jane Eyre's struggle to reconcile her love for Rochester with her moral principles, the destructive consequences of Heathcliff's obsessive passion, the choices that Anne's characters make in the face of societal pressures. These all speak to the complexities of navigating personal desires within a world that often seeks to constrain or control them.
And they weren't afraid to challenge those constraints, were they? Their female characters in particular often rebel against the limited roles assigned to them by society. They yearn for more, for love, for fulfillment, for the freedom to express their true selves.
It's one of the reasons their work continues to resonate with readers today, particularly with women who still face societal pressures and expectations that seek to limit their choices or define their worth.
The Brontes' writing also had a significant impact on Gothic literature, didn't it? Those atmospheric settings, the brooding characters, the elements of mystery and suspense, they all became hallmarks of the genre.
Their influence is undeniable. They took those Gothic elements and infused them with a psychological depth and a social commentary that elevated the genre beyond mere sensationalism. They explored the darker recesses of the human psyche, the secrets that lurk beneath the surface of polite society, the ways in which past traumas can haunt the present.
And they did it all with such vivid language, such a keen eye for detail, and a deep understanding of the human heart.
Their writing continues to inspire and influence writers today. It's a testament to their enduring power that their words still resonate, still provoke, still spark our imaginations centuries after they were written.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the Brontes, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to ponder? What's the lasting legacy of this remarkable family?
I think the Brontes' legacy is multifaceted. They left behind a body of work that continues to captivate and challenge readers. They gave voice to the voiceless, exploring themes of social injustice, female agency, and the complexities of human nature in ways that were groundbreaking for their time. And they remind us that even in the face of hardship, even when confronting the darkest aspects of life, the human spirit can endure and creativity can flourish.
It's a powerful message, and one that resonates deeply. The Brontes' lives and work remind us that literature can be more than just entertainment. It can be a mirror to society, a source of solace, a catalyst for change, and a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit.
And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that even those who grapple with inner demons, who face seemingly insurmountable obstacles, can create works of art that transcend time and touch the hearts of generations to come.
That's a beautiful sentiment to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of the Brontes. I hope our listeners will be inspired to revisit their works, to explore their complexities, and to ponder the enduring power of their legacy.